Welcome to episode 12. I'm Britton Brown with US Bike Racing News. This week I'm going to be recapping the Redlands Bicycle Classic, going to be talking about the top US sprinters, and lastly, our newest segment, Buy, Sell, or Hold. So buckle up, let's get after it. This is US Bike Racing News. Today I'm talking about the US Peloton's top sprinters. You know, when I think about the top sprinters in the US Peloton, I get pretty much 11 names that just stand out above everybody else. Guys like Eric Young, Travis McCabe, Sebastian Hayedo, John Murphy, Corey and Justin Williams, Scott Law, Alfredo Victoria Rodriguez, Tyler Magner, Michael Rice, and Ulysses Castillo. But out of those names, I want to feature who I think is the fastest three, and right now, who I believe is the undisputed king of the kick. Okay, let's talk about my top three US Peloton sprinters. Sitting in third, John Murphy, Hallowesco Citadel. John took a top 5 at Joe Martin. He's had wins at Speedweek's Rock Hill Criterium and Sunny King Criterium, as well as Athens Twilight Criterium. Then there's Travis McCabe with UHC sitting in second. Travis started 2017 with wins at the Herald Sun Tour. He had 2 wins and two top three finishes at the Tour of Langkawi. And then he had 2 top 3s as well as the sprinter's jersey at the Gila. However, my undisputed king of the kick is, drum roll please, Eric Young. Pound for pound, Eric Young has got it going on. With wins at Chico, Joe Martin, and 2 wins at the Gila, Eric Young is the king of the beasts when it comes to sprint right now. Hey, before we go any further, let's take a look at the race schedule in your neck of the woods and see what's going on. All right, let's talk about the Redlands Bicycle Classic, where we saw TJ Eisenhart with Hallowesco Citadel make his presence known, and Ruth Winder with UHC in the Pro Women's take GC honors. So let's start with the Pro Men's race, where we saw TJ Eisenhart grab a hold of the yellow jersey with a dominating performance in Stage 2. An epic performance that enabled him to hold on to the yellow jersey coming into the final day, Stage 5 on the Sunset Loop course. Not only was it going to be a battle from the start, but Mother Nature decided to throw a curveball into the mix by putting everyone into the hurt locker. Almost from the gun, the attacks were unleashed, but it wasn't until about the first quarter of the race that had gone by that a group of 7 riders were able to escape that included Paco Mancebo. At one point, Taylor Sheldon and Paco Mancebo were able to cut the cord from the rest of the break and actually went at it by themselves off the front for 2 laps before Mancebo decided to go it alone with 1 lap to go on the Sunset Loop. Even better was the timing of Mancebo's final winning attack that he unleashed just moments, I'm talking moments, before the rain and hail began to dump on the chasing peloton. That was a cheeky move. Mancebo was able to keep a small gap through the finishing circuit. Congrats to TJ Eisenhart and the Hallowesco Citadel team for winning Redlands Bicycle Classic. Now on to the women's. The Pro Women had a full-on Donnybrook going on with Amber Needham coming into the final day with the yellow jersey and a 22-second gap on Katie Hall with UHC. But UHC had been dominant all season long, definitely came ready to throw down. And that's what they did. UHC played a tactical masterpiece, with Katie Hall gobbling up the QOM points like Miss Pac-Man and putting the finishing touches on the QOM jersey. And at that point was when UHC reels in the break, just enough to send Ruth Winder across to the break, leaving Amber Needham in the dust, and Ruth Winder taking the win in the overall, with her teammate Lauren Hall finishing second. Okay, for all you Strava riders out there trying to add some speed to your descents, I recently came across an awesome article put out by Velo News this last week. In a nutshell, they covered Chris Froome's position and Peter Sagan's, at least the two most important positions on my radar. Ultimately, what they found was Peter Sagan's position was 17% faster than Froome's, and the fastest by far, as well as the safest by far. Now that we finally had that figured out, I expect to see some people bombing descents and smashing some records this weekend. Now, for those that are getting ready to go out and do that, I just want to put a quick disclaimer out on the screen. US Bike Racing News does not condone or advise any rider to go faster than they are capable of or try anything dangerous while riding a bike. Although US Bike Racing News does acknowledge that bike racing and anything scary that pertains to bike racing can and will be dangerous. In a nutshell, Peter Sagan's tucked position is the fastest and most likely to gain anybody the time that they need to capture King of the Descent with Strava. Let's move into our new segment called Buy, Sell, or Hold. I'm breaking down 10 riders on a weekly basis who, if I was looking at them as a stock or commodity, and in a way, I guess they're more like a commodity, I'd want to have those riders in my portfolio. Now, just because I would sell a rider, it does not mean I think they suck. It just really just means that I think for the next week or two, I don't think the rider's going to be a good fit for an upcoming race or a course that they're getting ready to head to. On the flip side, if I buy a rider each week, it just means that I think he's going to get better and better as the racing goes along. Make sense? It's pretty simple. Well, here we go. Okay, when it comes to riders that I would be a buyer of, I'm going to be buying this week Robin Carpenter. Of course, with that awesome win, TJ Eisenhart, Brandon McNulty, Gavin Mannion, and I'm thinking, just as a side note, I'd probably be a buyer of Adam DeVos. But anyway, riders I would hold if I were already owning them. Danny Summerhill. I would hold Eric Young and Eric Marcotte. Now, I will say, just so everybody's in the loop, there's a lot of whisper around the racing scene right now that with Winston-Salem being kind of a lone wolf out there with no help with Philly, that there are some teams that you would think would go to Winston-Salem that actually might not go. So I think that Philly's actually going to hurt the Winston-Salem race, but we'll have to see how that unfolds. That's kind of why I would put somebody like Eric Marcotte as a hold. I think wherever he's going to go, he's going to be strong. However, I would not be a buyer of him if he's not going to go to Winston-Salem. Now, if he goes to Winston-Salem, he's a top horse. I'm going to be a buyer of him. Riders I would sell Sepp Kuss right now. I just don't think a race like Winston-Salem, if he ends up going, is going to be a good race for him. A rider like maybe Kyle Murphy this week and Jeffrey Coran are not players that I would want to have in my portfolio for the next week or two. Now let's talk about teams on the buy, sell, or hold. Teams I would buy, obviously Haloesco, Rally, UHC, and Action are all the teams that I would continue to be a buyer of, thinking that they've got more wins coming their way. They're just strong, they're dominant players. Teams I would hold if I were already a buyer and an owner of. I wouldn't add to my position, I would just keep the position going. Jelly Belly, Silence, and Evola are teams that I think are they're solid performers. They're going to get somebody in a break. They're going to get somebody to the line in the top 5. So those are my hold players. Teams I would sell right now, honestly, Team Nova Nordisk, I think they got a great story. I just never see them perform real well. So that's not somebody I would, if I owned them, I would be selling them. Elevate KHS, they had a great start to the season. I don't know, maybe they're getting themselves back on track and looking at the second half, but you know, I think that's a team that has to go to Winston-Salem. They have to be at every UCI race, and right now they just their main riders haven't been at the races, and I'm not sure what's going on there. And then the other team I would be a seller of is Team Illuminate. They just have not performed well this year. I don't think they have any dominance coming in, at least for the next couple of weeks. That's kind of where I sit on my buy, sell, or hold, and I will continue to update that as we progress throughout the season. Okay, wrapping up episode 12 with US Bike Racing News. The Amgen Tour of California starts this week. We have US-based Jelly Belly, Rally, UHC, Team Nova Nordisk, as well as World Tour teams based here in the US, Cannondale Drapac and Trek Segafredo, on their home turf. Now, since the World Tour teams get enough press on their own, we here at US Bike Racing News, it's all about the growth of the sport here in the US, will only be covering our US Pro Continental Tour teams and riders. We have Rick Krebs on the ground in California for some of the races, and he'll be getting some of the key interviews that we all love to have. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook for updates, and until next time, I'm Britton Brown with US Bike Racing News. Thanks for watching.